Good morning, it's coffee time. Mm, Fresh coffee, can't beat it. So, this is lesson two. We're going to continue on from what we did in the last lesson, which was looking at the C major scale across the whole fretboard. And just want to give you a reason why we're learning this. I did touch upon this subject that, what we're doing, we're kind of mapping out the fingerboard so that when we improvise or we're following a chart, we know the positions, and we're kind of creating muscle memory for these shapes over the entire neck. Okay, and that's how you'll see bass players, they'll be flying all over the neck, and this is how they achieve that by practicing these patterns and shapes. Nothing's improvised. It's improvised in the selection, that the patterns that you select in the moment, but everything's learnt and studied beforehand. So I just want to, maybe I'm taking away a bit of the magic there, but when we talk about improvisation, it's kind of not improvisation. It's the aspect of improvisation is deciding what to play that you've already learnt and studied. So that's why we do this. Just want to touch upon that. Okay, so we looked at the C major scale, and this C major scale is also known as the Ionian Mode. Just want to put that out there. We're going to come back to modes, but you're actually learning modes now, because if you're learning the C major scale, it's one of the modes. It's the first mode. Okay, so let me get a bit closer to the camera. Which way? This way. So let's start at the first position. Now, I posted on my last tweet for the last lesson a reply to that. You can look on the kind of tweet thread or the message thread now that I'm not sure if we call them tweets anymore, but the X message thread. We can you can look there, and I've posted a kind of a diagram of the fretboard and all the positions for the C major scale across the whole neck. So that's what we're going to go through today. So let's start with the first position, which is starting on the E string. Now you remember we talked about the double bass and how we have economy. Now you see that I'm using my third finger, and I did say we could use the fourth finger. So depending how big your hands are, you might want to use your fourth finger for the G, A, B. This is on the G string. This is the first position. Now I would use the third finger in this position because sometimes we might want to go to the octave. If you look here, start on the E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so that's a cool option for you, but you might want to use the fourth finger there. It's a bit easier, it's less of a stretch, because remember we're down at the kind of the low end, if you like, of the bass, and the frets are wider apart, so it's going to stretch your fingers. And even though the double bass is actually longer, the actual stretches are shorter because you use your little finger. We don't use this third finger ever. We never use the third finger in these lower positions, unless you're Charlie Hayden, but that's another story. Okay, so let's go to the second position. So I just want you to look at the starting notes as well. So we're playing, even though we're playing in C major, but we're starting down here on E. That's interesting. So we're playing still in C major, but we're starting on the E. So that means you don't have to start on the C note every time you play or improvise over C major. And that's really important. And that links back to the modes. So just be aware of that and play around with it, So I could start down here. And purposely not hit the C. get some resolution there when I hit the C. The same with the F. We can start on the F now. This is, I call this probably still the first position, but maybe you want to call it the second position. Don't get too bogged down on the naming of the position. Just think of the shape. So I'll call this the F position. So we start on the F. I mean, it's so with this one, slightly different. We start on the F, we go to the G, then we go from the A string, open A, third finger on the B, fourth finger on the C. So let's try that again. Open A string, third finger on the B, fourth finger on the C. Now why do we do that? Because that's the shape of the F, starting on F. I'm going to play it up here just to give you an idea. Or here. So there's more than one way to play it. So here, we can play it with these two fingers here. Or we can play it one finger per fret. So on the D it's the same, it's repeated. So it's D, E, F. So it's F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Open D, then you've got the E on the third finger, and the fourth finger you have the F. And then we need to change. So we need to do a shift. So this is another thing. You can anticipate shifts in the pattern. So for example, we've been doing this. We've been playing the A, B, C and the D, E, F with the open string third and fourth fingers. Now we can't maintain that shape because now the next notes are on the G string, open G, A and B. So let's go up again. So F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, open G. Now I'm starting to move my hand in anticipation to use my first finger to fret an A, and now I can use my fourth finger or my third finger, whichever one you prefer. Now I would use my fourth finger if that's the kind of, that's the last note I'm going to play on the G string. If I'm going to play the C, then I would use my third finger. Okay? It's a bit more of a stretch, but say if I was just targeting this B, I just want to get up to this B. That's what I'm hearing. So you see there, I use my fourth finger. So it all depends on, there's two things that we're looking at. The targeting, which is B, dictates what fingers you're going to use, or can do. And also economy. So you can move your hand in anticipation of playing the next note. Sorry, I just swallowed a frog there. So another sip of coffee, as it is the morning. Lovely. Okay, so now this is a really hard, for me this is the most challenging part of the bass to play, is around this area here. If you can nail that, this part's the easy part. Trust me. Playing up here, the dusty end, is easy. Playing down here is the hard part, especially when you're improvising and soloing down here. It's really challenging. It's about looking and practicing different ways of economy, motion, and targeting. Remember those three words: economy, motion, the way that we're moving, anticipation, forwards, targeting. So sometimes I go back to these two fingers here. This is from, I used to play double bass, so this is in this position here on the double bass you would use the first and second finger. So it's I want to leave it to you. I don't want to make any hard and fast rules about this. I want you to experiment and then just kind of work out what is best for your hand shape. What's more economical for your hand shape, and how can you play it with the least amount of pain? Because sometimes when you're stretching, you're going to get a lot of pain here. So it's all about you know, it's a personal thing. You know, the bass guitar doesn't have a method like the double bass, so it's more of a personal style that you need to experiment and develop yourself based on your own hands. And it's just repetition. You can put a metronome on, but that's not how I've ever practiced. You know, I put maybe a song on or a backing track in C, just improvise. And it's great. Remember the target notes and the starting notes. Don't start on C. If you're playing over C major, start on F. Okay, now we're not going to go through all of them because in so much detail. So we're going to start going quick now. So let's go to G. So this is the G position. Start with the middle finger this time, your second finger. G, A, with a little finger on the E string. G string, sorry, A string, B with the first finger. A string, second finger, which is the C. Now this is here where you can cheat, and then the fourth finger on the A string is a D. Now you can cheat because now we're just playing the C major scale again, which we've already been through. So the only new part we're playing is this G, A. So this G and this A are now the new part. When we shift up to the A string, sorry, I'll correct myself. We're actually playing the B as well. So we're playing the G and the A on the E string, and on the A we're playing with the first finger the B. Everything else is the C major. And this is one finger per fret. So it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So now let's put it together with the G, A and the B. Okay, so you can see there that we can reuse the C major because we're still in the key of C major, we're just starting on the G. That's very important. So let's hear that sound. What I'm doing here, I'm playing a G chord. I'm playing a G7 chord. But we're still in the key of C major. You might want to try that for fun. So you can play, if you put your first finger here on the G, go a bit closer to the camera. Okay, then directly down, so two strings down on the D string, play the F, and then play the B on the G string. So you have this. Now start playing the G. Play C major, but start on the E string on the G. You can play up here the same thing. So let's go to the 12th fret, and then we go to the next dot along. So you see this, the 12th fret, C octave. We go up to the C here, which is the next. You'll see there you got a dot here, dot marker here. You might have a Perloid one like me, or if you've got like a jazz bass. And then it's exactly the same. We're just playing it up here. So then we can do this. So the same thing we did down here with the G, first finger on the G on the A string, second finger on the D on the F. Sorry, second finger on the D string, fretting the F note. 1, 2, 3, and then we take the third finger, put it on the B on the G string, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's move that up to here. So we've got the 12, we've got 2 dots here. Look for the next dot along. Okay. I'm adding a few notes in. They're called chromatic notes, and I'm doing that because I want you to hear what I want you to realise. That's how I'm getting the sound. It's all rooted though in that C major scale, but we start on the G note. So you see, we come from here, and now we've arrived up to here. Now I'm going to show you one other place you can play the C major starting on the G, and it's here. Okay, so that's you find the 2 dots, and you go down 2 frets. So if you look, you've got your 2 dot markers here. Then you look at your next dot markers here, which is the F sharp, and then we play the G. The G is next to it. So that's the 10th fret on the A string, and we just play the same pattern. You know, the C major, but look, we've only got 3 strings to play it, so we just play G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we're just playing from G to G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 1 finger per fret. And have a look where my thumb is. My thumb is always, you know, next to my 2nd finger. Yeah, where possible. You know, I try to do that. You know, sometimes it's not possible. So yeah, so we're at the 10th fret on the A string. Now let's play that from G to G. G, A. Okay, so we play the 2 notes on the D string, the G and the A. Then we go to the D string and we play the B, C, D. So that's B on the 1st finger, C on the 2nd finger, D on the 4th finger. So that's the octave D. So if that doesn't sound the same note, you know you're in the wrong position. Then we play the E with the 1st finger. Remember, we maintain the same shape we're doing here. Look at that shape. Refer back to the thread, and you can have a look at the board diagram. You should be able to find this on the 10th fret. And then on the G string, we play the 1st finger. We play. So we've come here to the D, then we come to the E, the F on the 2nd finger, and then the G on the octave. So you can rewind the video and just go over that a few times. Now we've got this position, which takes us from G to C. We've got this position here, the octave, same notes, because everything past this 12th fret is the same as it is from the open E string. So from this 12th fret, it's the same as it is from the same pattern. Just repeats. So we've got G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We can play the same thing down here. We can play it up here. Or we can play it here. So we're just going from G to G. Okay? We can't obviously play from G to C. But, so if we wanted to play from G to C, we could do that. We could go G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now we have to shift back to this pattern. Remember, we have this pattern here that goes from G to A, B, C. Remember, A, B, C on the G string. A, B, C. A, B, C. It's the same. So we could go G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so we go C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G. Now, again, rewind that, play it a few times. That's my cat there in the background. Every bass player has a cat. Okay, so, sorry, don't want to distract you there. So, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So, again, what we're doing, we're just getting you out of playing the same old shapes, you know. Now we're playing a bit more. We're open, so we're up to here. And what you want to do is practice coming down here, down there, and then from the G, F, E, D, B, D, C, B. So we could go up this one, and and then down on the D string, and then let's go up. Sorry, you mustn't play this note here, this F sharp. You must play G, A, and then let's go up the A string. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So just play around with these shapes. I put a little bit extra in here. You can work out these little extra bits, but it's just to get you out of playing. So you see there, instead of just playing the same, so say for example you're in a band, you're doing a Friday night gig, and all of a sudden the singer says, right, bass solo, you can go. You know, something simple like that, but the crowd, they go wild. And it's getting you out of those tried and tested, boring old pentatonic patterns, you know. And it's also, not only that, it's mapping the fingerboard, giving you a map of where to go on the fingerboard. So that when you learn other stuff, licks, riffs, you can see harmonically how it superimposes on these maps that, you know, these patterns, these scales that you already know and that are under your finger. You have muscle memory, you know, and that's what we're trying to do. So it's all about practice. Go through this a couple of times, experiment, really nail those shapes so you don't have to think about it. You just know, your fingers just do the thinking for you. You know, it's repetition. You know, have fun with some chords there. You can do kind of a bluesy thing. You know, it's really important. Again, we're going to go over the blues. One of the most important things you can learn in music is the blues. So we're going to go over that. But for now, let's just focus. Some people call this the boring stuff, but I like to make it fun. You know, so get that under your fingers. We're going to return on the next bass lesson, morning bass lesson on X. Okay, all my videos are only on X. So get this down. We're going to move on to the A note next. We're going to play around. I want to spend some time on this area because this is really the meat and potatoes of what you're going to be playing for the next couple of years. Everything else is extra. If you get this right, everything else is easy. So it's over and out. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll be back with another morning bass lesson, hopefully tomorrow or the next day. Cheers for now. Enjoy your coffees.